Hi, I'm Grey Tiger, and welcome to the first in a series of modding tutorials that will guide you through creating a new user interface that can be imported into Warhammer 2. Over the course of these videos, we will create a new progress bar that can be placed on the campaign screen and manipulated as the player performs certain actions. In this tutorial series, you will learn some of the following things: how to manage the UI's location, size and visibility, how to create a script resource that is represented on the UI, creating effects and effect bundles, enabling and disabling effects, creating army abilities, creating event messages, creating custom units, and attaching custom units to the Regiment of Renown panel. Before we can do any of this though, there are a few tools that we will need. The first of which is the fantastic tool Notepad++. So I use this for all of my scripting needs. So if you go to Google and just type in the search Notepad++, you will arrive at this page. Just download the latest release and you'll be set to go. Along with Notepad++, we will also need a copy of Rusted Pack File Manager, which I use for pack file editing. It is more stable than Creative Assembly's tool. So if you open up an instance of Google and type in Rusted Pack File Manager, then it will you can find this GitHub page. So you download this, and it's just a matter of extracting it and then executing it. There is no install package. So once you have those two tools, the third tool you will need is some imaging editing software that is able to support layers. Now, I use Photoshop for all of my image editing, but there are a number of different products out there that would suffice. So once you have those three tools, the next thing you would need to do is to extract your source images. So in this tutorial, we'll be using assets taken from the Warhammer 2 data pack file. So we will need to extract these using the Rusted Pack File Manager to a folder that we choose. So to do this, we need to open up an instance of the Rusted Pack File Manager. Now here's an instance I have open. When you have the instance open, you go to Pack File and then open from Data, and then look for data.pack. Now, this contains this contains most of the UI elements that are in Warhammer 2, and this is the one that contains the UI elements that we're interested in using. So you would open that data.pack, and then once it's opened, you would expand this node and go down to UI. And then if you look in UI, you can see there's a whole lot of different folders, which are different aspects of the game. So we want to extract all of these, so we right click on the UI folder, like so, click on extract, and then we select the folder we want those extracted into. Now I recommend that you extract to your desktop or to a root folder, somewhere where it's easily accessible. Now I want to extract those right now since I already have them extracted, so I'll just cancel out of that and close that. Okay, so once we have those images extracted into a folder on the computer, then we can start to bring them into our image editing software. So you can see that I've got 7 images here which we're going to be using, and these images will be combined to create this progress bar, which will have 9 tiers and 3 unlockable abilities. So first of all, we need to get these images from that UI folder that we've just extracted. So the paths for those images are as follows. So we need to go to your folder that you just downloaded those into. Oh, excuse me, that's the wrong folder for me. Go to the folder you downloaded those into, and then you click on the UI, and then the first one, or the first 3 images, are all coming from UI, Campaign UI, Skills. And in this folder, you will want to find and extract you'll want to find and open up in your image editor WH main Lord passive the hunger. Passive the hunger. Okay, so WH main Lord passive the hunger is the first one you want to open in your image editor. The second one we need is the barrage of the Legion. So WH2 underscore DLC 9 underscore barrage underscore of underscore the underscore Legion PNG. And the third we will need from this folder is the ardor of fury. There we go. So WH underscore DLC 5 ardor of fury. So we need to open those three files, which are here in your image editor. We then need to go to another folder. How do we get out of that? Let's get, oh, that's not where I want to go. So we go back to our UI folder, and we get the rest of our files from UI skins default, and we want to get banners frame, which is just I just went past it. So banners frame PNG. We also want to open up in our image editor building frame PNG, which is a little bit further underneath. Here it is. We also want to open up bar frame PNG, which is this one, and then our final file that we want is in UI skins and then dwarf, and we want bar small buttons PNG. So that one. So I actually opened up the wrong one before. That's the one we want, bar small buttons PNG. So with those 7 files, we'll be able to create this UI or something very similar. So once these are open, just arrange them around the borders of your image editor so you can easily access them. And that's the preparation out of the way. So now we can actually get down to the fun bit, the creating of the UI. Now, as we go through this, don't stress if your image is not exactly the same as what I have on screen. We're concerned more with broad strokes. If things are out by a few pixels or misaligned, it doesn't matter so much. That would be perfectly fine. Okay, so let's get started with the creation. So the first thing we want to do is create a new image with a height of 350 and a width of 90 pixels. So let's do that. File new. So I want 90 pixels wide, 350 pixels high. Okay. And I'm just going to zoom in one level on that just to make it easier to play with. Okay. Okay, so we've got our image. So what we want to do is take this image and we want to cut out the panel. So just try and cut out best you can. Try not to lose any of the actual border, and if you get a little bit of stuff around the edges, that's okay. We can use the eraser to get rid of that. So we'll copy that and then paste it into our main image, and then we want to rotate it like so. And now I need to find it. There it is. Okay. So now we want that a little bit aligned to the left, because we have these three buttons which will poke out to the right. So let's move that a little bit further to the left. Okay, so now that we've got our rectangle in that image, we want to copy the top left hand corner, and we are then going to paste that onto the top right hand corner. So we've got a copy, we're going to paste, which puts that into a new layer. We're then going to flip that layer on the horizontal, and then we'll just drag that into position, and then just like so. I'll do, and we can then change the blending method to get the right feel. That one might be the one. Actually, let's you know what? I've actually copied the wrong corner. Okay, let's delete that. I want to copy the bottom left, not top left. Okay, so let's grab the bottom left. And then paste that on. Okay, so it's going to go down the bottom here, so we want to flip it horizontally, like so. And then we just move that into position, and then we'll blend that in. So let's just do a little bit with the opacity tool. That's close enough. Okay. And then we want to get our eraser, go to the bottom level, and get rid of this part that is protruding, like so. Okay, we then want to take this layer, duplicate it, and then transform it on the vertical and also transform it on the horizontal, and then we place it here. Let's put the opacity back up for that. And move that into position. And that's, yep, that's about right. Then we get our eraser again, go to the layer that we want to remove from, like that, and we also want to remove this part here. Okay, so that's close enough. Not too worried a great deal. Might just trim this part down the bottom a little bit, but otherwise I think that will do. Yep, okay. So we've got those three layers. Let's just merge those. We do not need them as separate layers, so merge visible. Okay, so we've got our basic background. So the next thing we want to do is create a rectangle about a third of the width of this background rectangle. So just grab our selection tool and create something about maybe yep, nope, about that wide. And then once we have that selected, we want to go to layer and new layer, and then we want to change to a black and grab our brush, and then on the new layer we just color that black. Pretty simple. Okay, then we go select and deselect, and then we just grab this and we bring it into the center and position it how we think it might need to be done. It's a little thinner than I wanted, so let's just transform that a little to make it a bit better. There we go. That'll do. Okay, so now that we have our background for our progress bar, what we want to do is now start to add the frame. So for the frame, we will be using the bar frame PNG that we brought in earlier. So we'll just select that and drag it into our main window. Then we need to transform it, rotate it. It doesn't matter if it's clockwise or counterclockwise. And then move it down to the bottom of our bar. Then we'll go edit, transform again, and this time we're going to scale, and we're going to scale the width so that it's expanded across the width of that background bar, like so. And we'll apply that. That's close enough. And then we wanted to cut out about a third of this size. So if we use our selection tool, and then we'll get our eraser and get rid of a third of that. Then use our selection tool to grab the top part, and we cut that out and then paste it back in so it goes onto a new layer. We'll then drag that down and then connect it up to what the bottom part was. Okay, so now we've got a box that's smaller than what we started off with, and about the right size for our needs. So let's hide the back three layers, the back two layers, so we've just got this rectangle visible. We then want to merge those two layers together to make it easier to work with. Okay, so now we want 9 tiers in our image here. So we want to duplicate this a further 8 times, stacking it on top of itself until we get up to the 9th tier. So let's just duplicate our layer and move it above. Now, to make it easier to see where we're moving it, we're going to put the black background behind. It's far easier to see than the transparent. So we just want a tiny little gap between the two. That gap should do. So then we duplicate the top one that we just moved, and we move that up. And then we do the same again. And again, we just continue to do this until we have our 9 sections. And in-game, these will be our progress tiers. So what's that give us? That gives us 6. I think we're going to end up being a little bit over. Yeah, not just a little bit. Might have to cut this down to 8 tiers. Yep. Okay. Oh, we're just going to adapt. Transform, scale. And we're just going to have 8 tiers. Because I'm just going to have 8 tiers here because I misjudged the size. You might be able to get 9 in yours. And if you get 8, that's perfectly fine. So with these now, what we want to do is add another layer, which is the color layer, which represents the actual progress. So to do this is quite straightforward. We just select the background, the black layer, and we duplicate that. And we then get our selection tool and we choose a color that we would like that background to be. I'm just going to go with the pink that I have in the example. Let's see, maybe a touch more red. That will do. Okay, so I've got this selected, so I grab my fill tool and I fill in this new layer. Cannot recreate. Okay, I was not expecting Photoshop to be upset about that. Alright, I'll select my... Okay, it seems that my Photoshop is throwing a hissy fit. Okay, I'm back to where I was previously, after my Photoshop had decided to crash. So, the last thing we did was create our 9, well, in my case I had 8, but now I have 9 again, 9 segments which represent our tiers. So we need to hide all the layers except for those segments and then combine those layers into one. So once we've done that, we go to our progress background and we make a duplicate of that, and then with that duplicate we want to select that and then color that in with the color that we want our progress bars to be. So I'm going to go for the pink and I'm going to deselect. Okay, so when we look at this now, it's better. Maybe a bit pink, a bit bright rather, but that will do. Okay, so we now have our progress bar filled in completely. What we need to do for this to then be functional with a script is we need to split this into segments. So to do that, we take duplicates. So this will be our full bar. We take a duplicate of this, we hide our full bar, and then we then select the top bar and erase it. This then gives us our bar at 8 tiers. We then take a duplicate of that 8 tiers, we hide the original, we then select and we erase it. And we just continue to do this until we have reached the bottom. Okay, so that now gives us our tiers. So if we hide that last one, we can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then if they're all off, then we have an empty progress bar. So that's our progress bar section completed. So now we're moving on to our buttons. So for that, I'm going to have to bring in one of the images. I didn't load them back in after I reloaded my Photoshop since it kept crashing. So which one will we need? We want the let me find the right one. We'll do the teardrop, or the blood drop rather. If I can find it. There we go. So drag that in. Might as well grab the others when I'm in here. Right, so what we want is to do the following. So we want to copy this blood image into our main. Let's just put it at the top of our layers. Okay, we then want to readjust the size of that. So about 80%. So we're going to go into Edit, Transform, Scale, and then 80% of that size. Okay. And then going to make a duplicate of that. Alright, so hide the original, get the duplicate, and we're going to desaturate that. We're going to remove all the color. So, like so. Hide that one, bring in this one, and we're going to adjust the colors so that we get a pink color similar to the color of the progress bar. So let's see if we can, how close we can get this. That's close enough. Maybe a bit more saturation and a little bit darker. No, way too dark. Maybe we didn't. That will do. Okay, so we now have two representations of this button. We've got the disabled and enabled. So now that we have those two, we want to take this ring and drag this in, and we then combine the ring and the button icon. So that's about right there. So we want to take that and then we duplicate, and we want to hide those two, and we want to, oh, there we go, and that fits as well. Okay, so then once we've got that, we want to actually combine those. So to do that, we're going to want to hide everything except those two elements. So we've got these two, and we'll go Layer, Merge Visible, and then hide it, and then select the other two, Layer, make sure you got Layer selected, Layer, and Merge Visible. So now that we have those, we want to resize these so that they fit better in the overall progress bar. So let's put our progress about there. Let's get the frame in place, and then let's move these. So we want to resize this first of all to about 60% of what it currently is. So we'll transform and scale, and let's do 60%. And apply. Just realized that I've got that one the wrong way around. There we go. So we just did that one. So we then grab that and get that away. So we then move this up to the section we wanted in, which is about by here. Don't need to get too fussy, just try to get the tail of that blood droplet in line with the middle of the edge of the bar. We then want to take this layer and resize that one, edit and transform and scale, and once again that's going to be 60%. and apply. And then once we've got that, we're just going to drag it to roughly the same position. Let's just get the other image. So that one's there, so we'll move across. So when we, yep, they're in the same position, so that's fine. So we have our disabled, and then when the bar gets the appropriate spot, it becomes enabled. So we need to do this for the other two icons. So we'll drag in, let's just select the top layer. So we'll drag in the ring, and then drag in our icon, and then we want to take this icon and transform it and rescale it to 80%. And apply. Then we want to take that and change the color, try and get it to match the pink as much as we possibly can, and that will do. And then we combine these two, so we want that one underneath. So we'll drag that until it fits in the middle of, there we go, that's cool. So we then want to duplicate the ring layer, and we want to duplicate the image layer, and let's hide one of each, and then this image we're going to desaturate. So we've got our disabled version, and then we want to get rid of everything else for a moment so that we can combine these two layers. Okay, and then we want to get our other two and combine them. Layer and, oh, make sure that you've got the layer selected. Layer and merge visible. Right. Now while we're in here, we may as well do the third icon. So let's grab the ring, and let's grab the icon, and adjust the size of that icon. So we'll scale that to 80%, like so. And I then want to adjust the color to get it to match the progress bar as closely as I can. And that will do for now. And we then want to make this, put that into a layer behind the button frame, and then position it into the middle. Yep, that's good enough. And then we want to make a duplicate of that, and a duplicate of the ring, and then hide one of each, and then desaturate this icon so that we have the disabled version, and then combine the ring and that desaturated version. So merge visible layer, and then select the other two. So we've got the active version, and make sure we got the layer selected, and then merge visible layer. Okay, so we now have several buttons. Oops, let's just get disabled and enabled versions of each. So we want to, which one are we dealing with? Okay, so we got that one. We are going to then edit and transform and rescale that, and we want that at 60%. Okay, and let's just move it up there, and then we want to do the same for its color version. Edit and transform and scale, and we also want that at 60%. Okay, and then the same for the next one. %, and the final one, transform scale and 60%. Okay, so now that we have those combined and scaled correctly, we can reintroduce the other elements of the progress bar. Okay, so first of all we want to position the disabled version, so let's see if we can find, there we go. So we want to do that one. Let's actually rename these, it might be a little bit more helpful. So let's hide them all. Layer 1, okay. We'll call this disabled and we'll just call it blood. And then we'll select this one and we'll go enabled blood. So this one we'll call disabled barrage. And then that one becomes enabled barrage. And then this one is disabled, I don't know, let's say charge. Although I need to learn how to spell, that's not how you spell charge. That's better. And then the final one, enabled charge. Okay, that's going to make them easier to work with. So we want to get our disabled blood. No, sorry, we have the disabled blood in the right position. Let's undo that move. I want to get to the disabled barrage and move that down into position. So it lines up with the blood. Yep, that lines up. And then just have a small gap, like so. We then want to get the enabled barrage and put it on top. And then when we hide that, yep, we shouldn't see it move. Okay, excellent. And then we get the next one, the disabled charge. And we put that there, that looks like it's lining up. And then we get the enabled charge. And let's just move that across, so it looks like it's covering. And then if we hide that, yeah, it's not moving. Okay, so there we have our completed progress bar, but not quite there yet. We just need to do a few minor modifications. So for the progress background, we want to change that color because we want it to blend in a bit more with the background. It's a bit stark as it is. So let's see what we can get lighten. So we'll just play with this until you find one that you're happy with. There we go. I think that one maybe. Yes, so that one, and we'll drop the opacity down to about 80%. Okay, and then we'll just do that like so. There we go. So we have our finished progress bar. So now save this image off this project to a directory that you're happy with. And then we move on to the next step where we actually split this image into usable images in the script. So what I mean by that is when we are creating our progress bar in the game, it will start off with 0 progress. So this representation here is image 0. Image 1 would be this. Image 2 is this. Image 3 would be this one, because we will have the button here activate when we reach tier 3. Image 4 would be this. Image 5 is this. Image 6 this, but we also activate a button at image 6, and then image 7, image 8, and image 9. So we have images 0 through 9, so 10 images in total that we will then load. We will dynamically load during our during the game from our script file, depending upon how much of the resource the player currently has. So what you need to do is, let's get rid of the enabled for a moment and go down to an empty. So we would save this, so file, save as, and we want to save it as a PNG file, and then we save that into well, you'd save it into your modding folder, wherever that might be. So in my case, it's going to be, no, that's the wrong one. Can't even remember where I'm keeping my stuff. Modding Warhammer tutorial, tutorial 1, progress bar, and then I would save it into here. So you can see I've already saved these images previously, so I'm not going to go through saving them again, but you need to go through saving each different instance of that progress bar. Or actually, I do need to resave those because I've got them on the wrong orientation. So you can see there's progress bar tier 0. So I just save. Okay. Okay. I then turn that on. File. Save as. Excuse that. That's my cats fighting in the background. Tier 1. Okay. Then select the next one. File. Save as. PNG. Tier 2. So you can see there's a fair bit of repetitiveness with this. So we're on the 3rd tier. We're activating our first symbol on the 3rd tier. So file, save as, PNG, and 3rd tier. Okay. 4th tier. File, save as, PNG, and then 4. And then we select the next one. Save as, PNG, 5. Okay. And then we're on to the next one. So this is tier 6, where we enable the next one. File, save as, PNG, tier 6. Okay, and the next one, getting close now. So file, save as, progress bar tier 7. So the name will be important, so it's quite important that you make sure that you save it as progress underscore bar underscore tier, and then the number, and then there's a PNG, because we'll be using the fact that these are all in a similar naming style during the script. So that's 8, and then the final one, the final item enabled, file, save as, PNG, and number 9. Okay, so there we have our UI. So we've got UI with 9 tiers and an extra tier where there is no progress, and we have 3 abilities that we will be enabling or disabling as the player reaches certain tiers. So that will wrap up the tutorial for now. In the second episode, we will be creating a script, and the first part we're going to worry about is placing this UI control onto the campaign screen, its positioning, resizing it, and hiding and displaying it when the player ends their turn. So until next time, I'd like to thank you for joining me. I hope that this excuse me, that's my phone. I hope that this tutorial has proven somewhat interesting, but it should prove more useful as we get into the scripting side. It's just you need to do this preparation with the files in order to create the UIs that I create for my mods. Now, I'd just like to end the video with the usual shout out to my patrons, with a special thanks to Hot Apple Pie for the continued support. I'm Grey Tiger, and I will hopefully see you next time.